Hello everyone and welcome to another video here on the Second Day Next channel, and today Patrick Blake and myself are dissecting what happened in the first time trial in the Giro d'Italia 2025 in Albania. And Patrick, what exactly happened?
Well, we set off in a 13 point or whatever kilometer time trial that we had going on today. Mads Pedersen was leading the race going into today, 4 seconds ahead of Wout van Aert, and that was really the big battle that we were all waiting for throughout the whole day, because just 4 seconds splitting those two guys over such a short distance. Pedersen has done well over these sorts of distances before, but before we get to that, of course, we had some very fast early runners in the likes of Eduardo Affini, Dan Hola, for example. We saw a crash by Luke Plapp on one corner, which seemed to throw a couple of people off. It definitely, it made Affini kind of skid a little bit, and it also made Carapaz skip, and maybe some other people who I didn't see along the way. So Plapp went down, sadly. He might have finished inside the top 10, I would dare say. Might have been on the fringes of the top 10, possibly, based upon the kind of live timings that were going on. That certainly did influence other people's line choices throughout that corner for the rest of the race. So a lot of people taking it wider rather than Plapp's kind of narrow line that he was taking. But anyway, we then saw a big time being put in by Jay Vine. Obviously, he went down yesterday, but he put in a fantastic performance and ended up setting really the main competitive time. He beat Eduardo Affini, so he was on the hot seat. And then it came to the big favourite of the day, which was Josh Tarling for the Ineos Grenadiers. Tarling was looking really good on the flat, then went up the climb to Sauk, which then meant he was, I think it was something like 3 seconds behind Jay Vine at that point. And then it was a matter of trying to make up that time on the descent back down to the finish, which he did. He managed to gain back 6 seconds on the descent, which put him 3 seconds ahead of Jay Vine. And there was a lot of other kind of rides going through at that sort of, there was this kind of point of a lot of climbers going through. There wasn't too many big competitors coming forwards. The next big interest point was of the GC riders, pretty much, especially the likes of Ayuso and Roglic, and these guys who are also very good at time trialing, and pretty much most of the UAE Team Emirates squad, as it turned out. We saw a lot of those posting inside the top 10, like, Del Toro was going well, obviously Jay Vine, McNulty, but we saw Ayuso going through. Obviously, he finished towards the back of the group yesterday, so he went early, and, he put in an okay performance, certainly not amazing in comparison to what we've seen from TTs of Ayuso over this distance before. Maybe that crash yesterday, which he had, maybe influenced how he was going today. But then we saw Vatsek put in a very good intermediate split. He was ahead, but then he lost that time to Tarling. So pretty much Tarling was the man to beat, and Roglic set off as pretty much the other big person who were all looking out for well in terms of the GC kind of yardstick. And Roglic went over the first intermediate split, I think just ahead. I think he put in the fastest intermediate split time. And we pretty much just saw Roglic coming across the line just shy of Josh Tarling. It's the second down, according to the timesheet. But I think it might have even been less than that. It might have been, fractions of a second. So Roglic goes into provisional second place behind Josh Tarling. And then the big battle then turned to Wout van Aert versus Mads Pedersen. Wout van Aert, in the Chiclamina jersey, was looking really good. But then the live timer came up and he was already 14 seconds down before hitting the climb, which then ballooned outwards. And then he ended up being 20-something seconds down at the intermediate and finished the day in 40th, whatever place. So then it was all eyes on Mads Pedersen. Can he defend the pink jersey? Not from Wout van Aert, but actually now from Primoz Roglic was the big threat for the pink jersey. So Pedersen's putting in a really good performance. He's holding Tarling's time in the first few kilometers. He slips towards the intermediate split down to about 10 seconds. So at this point, he's bang on where he needs to be, because he got the 10 bonus seconds yesterday. But then going down towards, the finish line, he ends up just slipping a couple of seconds, but then gaining some back through corners because of his technical ability. But he's going up the final straight and it ticks over Tarling's time. And then it goes to 10 seconds, 11, 12 seconds down is where Pedersen eventually finished, which means that obviously he'll sadly lose the pink jersey. But to round off this bit, the top 10 of today was Josh Tarling, followed by Primoz Roglic, 1 second down, Jay Vine, Eduardo Affini, Matthias Vatsek, Dan Hola, Mads Pedersen, Brandon McNulty, even Hayter for 9th, and then Juan Ayuso rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, quite a thrilling time trial. To be honest, I wasn't expecting it to be that close in so many narratives. But yeah, I mean, Patrick, Josh Tarling, what a story. Tried to win his first Grand Tour stage in the Vuelta last year, was denied. And yeah, this will be a huge victory for him now, and Ineos Grenadiers as well.
Yeah, he was quite disappointed after that Vuelta stage last year. You could sort of see the emotion which had compounded from that Olympics TT where he had that mechanical which denied him a podium place at the very least. So obviously that kind of compounded that. But so it's great to see that Tarling gets his first Grand Tour victory today. I mean, gosh, there's another TT still to go in this Grand Tour. Who knows what might happen there? But yeah, it was great to see. He looked really strong, and obviously he slipped some time on the climb to the more climate orientated time trialists, which makes a lot of sense. But you could just see how he was flowing through the corners and just carrying that momentum round all like the technical parts of the course. It was really impressive to see somebody so adept on a time trial bike just really going full gas. And yeah, it was pretty close though. I think I was expecting him to win maybe more. I don't want this to be like, showering with damp praise or whatever, but I don't know. I think that it was very close. Obviously, he also like caught up to Wout Poels in his run, so he kind of got that slipstream benefit. So I think that actually did help play a part. I think without Wout Poels being there, maybe Roglic might have been the one to win today. So just goes to show that if you set off earlier and have a bit of a slower person in front of you, and you can use their draft benefit, well, that can actually be a couple of seconds there. So I think I was expecting more of a resounding victory, but still, that doesn't matter. What really matters is that he gets this Grand Tour victory, and it's, great for the Ineos Grenadiers.
So close. It's just, yeah, it's too close, if you will. But what job is Tarling going to do more in this race now?
I guess probably try and win that other TT for a start. That'll be his other major goal. And other than that, it's going to be supporting a Rensman and Bernal, who, respectively, they didn't do as great today. Rensman was in 15th place, 22 seconds down on Roglic, and Bernal was 49 seconds down. So I'm not too sure whether he might get breakaway freedom as well, but I think first things first, it'll be focus on, supporting his GC leaders the next week, and then he'll get that other TT opportunity to try and snag himself a second win, which, based upon today, I'd say the longer the TT is, the better it is for Tarling. And obviously the other one, I think, has a bit less climbing in there. So I think for Tarling, that other one is better for him. So get through this next week unscathed and try bag himself another.
Oh, we might as well come to Mr. Second Place here, Primoz Roglic. Maglia Rosa now for the first time since he won it back in 2023. After that Montelezari stage, has a really good record in the time trials in the Giro. But yeah, what do you make of this? Is this the Giro now over because another Slovenian has the Maglia Rosa? When Tadej Pogačar had it, we didn't see another person wearing that.
It is interesting. I would say that this wasn't necessarily the goal for Red Bull Bora-Hansgrohe to take the pink jersey at this point. At the end of the day, you can't just kind of let off or try perfectly, allow Pedersen to keep the pink jersey. You need to go full gas and put as much time as you can into your major rivals. But I think ideally for Red Bull Bora-Hansgrohe, Pedersen would have held on to the pink jersey. It's still possible that he could actually gain it back, Pedersen, tomorrow with intermediate sprint bonus seconds, because he's only 1 second down in GC at the moment. So it's possible that could happen. But is it over? I think it allows Roglic to play a very defensive race now, because he is seconds ahead. I mean, his closest major GC rival here is a Ayuso, I'd say. He's at 16 seconds, and it just means that Roglic can, just play a bit more of a defensive game. He doesn't have to attack people in order to get into the lead. He can just follow moves, and I think that's a more ideal scenario to be in, and probably what they kind of want is just have Roglic ahead and see if he can take bonus seconds or whatever at, mountaintop finishes or, intermediate sprints or whatever. And just basically just kind of like slowly just like suffocate the opposition so that they just can't get ahead, because he's a fantastic climber. He's a good time trialist. And so, yeah, Roglic is in the absolutely commanding position at the moment. Is the race over? Nah. I mean, there's a lot of stages still left to go. You have a lot of cards still to play. They've got 4 people inside the top 14 in GC at the moment. So yeah, I think UE can play some cards. They've got more cards to play than Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe do, and I think that's going to be really interesting to see how UE play that advantage.
Yeah, I mean, just for Red Bull, it's like the riches and talent that they have with in terms of Giro. Palmares is with Jai Hindley and Daniel Martinez supporting now a Roglic in a defensive role. Is quite interesting how that will play out in the first few big challenges in terms of mountain stages. But yeah, UAE Team Emirates, what did you make of that? Ayuso dropped his bottle. Maybe that cost him 8 watts or something. And Adam Yates, yeah, looked fine. Well, just normal climber. Isaac Del Toro, this doesn't really tell us who their leader is. I think Ayuso would have been disappointed by that time trial.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think a user would probably hope to be, I'd probably say within 10 seconds of Roglic in that TT. Obviously, that's not that many seconds different to what it is in reality, but I think they'd hope for him to be a bit closer. I mean, at the end of the day, McNulty went faster than him, but McNulty isn't a GC rider for them. So I think it is good that they still have a Yuzo and Del Toro up there. Yates didn't lose that much time. He's 36 seconds down. I mean, okay, in the grand scheme of things, 36 seconds still seem like quite a big gap, but there's still a lot of climbing left to go in this race. And I think that, yeah, UE just have to play it patient. And yes, they've got multiple people in this race who could be a leader, but I think that the numbers game will come into its own eventually. They just have to be patient and keep all of those riders out of trouble as long as they can. And then they can leverage that to put pressure onto Roglic. It's not necessarily going to be an advantage for the next even like week or so, but they're going to have to try the hardest to keep this as the status quo for as long as they can, and then use that advantage later on in the race when the terrain is more favourable.
Do you think that bottle cost him, I don't know, the podium?
Well, it probably cost them a few seconds, doesn't it? Because the way the bottles are, they're integrated into the design of the bike and almost how the air flows, and it just acts as a foil essentially to help guide the wind over the bike. And I mean, it's not the longest TT, but I mean, I didn't see where he lost it, but it might have cost him like a couple of seconds, but I don't think it'll be like race breaking.
It wasn't the incident that cost him the stage win.
Yeah, imagine. No, sorry, mate. I didn't win the stage win. I dropped my bead on. It's like, you were 50 seconds down. What do you mean? That's what. Who's going to play that card? That's what like Nairo Quintana's going to say. But, you know, if I had a more streamlined bead on, I'd have won that.
But well, we might as well. We've talked a bit about UAE and Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe and Ineos. Obviously, Jaco Ayula seemed like Luke Clapp. That was, who knows what that team's going to do really? Because if they were thinking about GC, if Zana could potentially just go in the breaks. But Matt White also getting dismissed from the team will shake up the team a bit. So yeah, I think they're a bit all over the place right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I mean, Harp is still race, and Harper's the GC contender. He moved up to 23rd today. Okay, he's 51 seconds down, but once you remove some of the non-climate orientated people, he's probably more inside the top 20 to, you know, maybe top 15 or something like that. And that for him to finish inside the top 10, like they're hoping perhaps some breakaways are going to be in order for him to try and jump up a little bit more. I think just trying to hang on to the coattails of the GC fight and just hoping to beat people one by one, that's going to be a long and arduous fight. I think, you know, getting into some breaks might be a bit of an easier solution.
I mean, we've spoken about Matt Bills and we haven't spoken about great fight to, like you say, get within range of the Malheuros and could potentially take it back tomorrow. But what teams would be disappointed about this time trial, do you think? What GC riders, because obviously sprinters don't really care about this, but what GC riders? Derek G, I think maybe would have hoped for a bit more, maybe.
Yeah, I think, Derek G is certainly one, because he was 20th place today, which, it's not great. I'd also say Taberi, honestly. He finished in 18th place, and like, I would say that he's a guy who's finished inside the top 10 of both of the Giro TTs last year, and like even this year in like Tirreno, who's very good over this sort of distance. So that was a very weird one. I honestly had Taberi down as being much closer to Ayuso, like probably more towards like 12th place at least. Like he was behind a Rensman who got dropped earlier. He got dropped yesterday, whereas Tiberi didn't. So it just doesn't really add up for me that Tiberi is a good time trialist and in seemingly quite good form, but then didn't do as well today. It's very weird, but yeah, I think that Tiberi and G are probably two that I'd point out. But other than that, I mean, probably Wout van Aert, I think, would be a bit disappointing. Like Visma Lease bike on the whole. Okay, yes, Simon Yates was okay, but I think Simon Yates actually finished higher up than Wout van Aert in this TT, which just goes to show how weird this TT was. But I'd probably say they're kind of the ones who might be disappointed. I'll probably say somebody who'd be quite happy is Tudor Pro Cycling. Michael Storer, 19th place. He was faster than Derek G and just about on the same time as Tiberi. Storer, I was expecting to lose like 40 seconds here, like beyond Carapaz's time. That was really good from Storer. Everybody else is roughly where I expected them to be.
Yeah, and just to finish up, the top 10 of the GC, because we always forget that sometimes, and then people say, where's the top 10? Primoz Roglic in first place, Mads Pedersen moves down one place, Matthias Vacek, third place, McNulty, fourth place, Juan Ayuso, fifth place, 16 seconds down, Del Toro, sixth place, Max Poole, seventh place, you'll be happy about that, Tiberi in eighth place, ninth, Michael Storer, and then Giulio Pellizzari is the man who just bumped Wout van Aert out of the top 10 by 1 second. But with that, that's basically it for our recap race analysis of stage 2 of the Giro d'Italia. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you thought of the stage, and make sure to head over to Patrick's own channel, I'll Do Cycling as well. But we will be back for tomorrow's stage, so the last stage in Albania. So we'll see you then, and thank you for watching and have a nice day.